Hello, this is Strozzi. This is Amass Games, and I'm keen to show you this new game. I say new game. This is a game actually I picked up recently, but came out about 10 years ago by Dr Reiner Knezia. There's another game I've played called Dici, which is I'll come on to the reasons why, but basically it's a similar kind of game. It's a sort of auction bidding game. The difference here, I would say, it's a little more streamlined. Slightly not as pretty in a way, but at the same time, it flows fast and it's quite enjoyable. So I want to show you what Strozzi is all about. And it's basically on the back an illustration that the majority of actually how to play it is literally on there. Having said that, I do like to know how to play something taught, shall we say, and hence why I'm keen to refresh myself by watching this and going through it. So this is quite a big board. Now the majority of it, to be honest, doesn't need to be in shot. It's just going to give you an overview. But what you're looking to see is this is basically Italy. So what you're doing is, obviously it comes with various pamphlets, games from Rio Grande, which isn't really around anymore, rules in English and rules in German. But even though it's quite an abstract theme, I thought I'd just explain to you a bit about the history of why we are in Italy, and that is because in the 1500s, as I said, Medici is somebody else, and there's also the other family known as Bardi, and this is Strozzi. Now, there might well be a game called Bardi. I'm not familiar with it, to be honest, but what you're looking to do is get the most victory points possible. And you do that because we are traders. So the traders or the ship merchants of those families I just mentioned are looking to try and go out and discover the best goods, the best ships that come into port. And when they're coming into port, they can choose to go in to deliver to Naples, to Rome, or to Venice. Now, Florence isn't a port. So Florence basically exists as a kind of a wild card. It's basically around this scroll track, which works as a tiebreaker, but also works in its own right to get points. So these tiles in particular here work towards the kind of additional bonuses you can get. And these are called promotion tiles. So basically you're looking to sell additional stuff when you're going. And I'll come on to that as kind of the last point. Money is a little annoying because it's all one size, which is really unuseful, and also the same colour. So we have fives, we have tens, and we have 50s, and that's it. The advantage of having all the same size and colour, though, is the fact that your money is hidden. So it does make a lot of sense. But at the same time, because it's hidden, they could really have just made everything, at least when you're trying to find money and hand it out to people, exactly how much you're counting out. So I'm going to leave this as a kind of stash over there. Nobody starts with any money, you don't need it at the beginning, but you're basically gaining it. It's basically your victory points. So it's a 3 to 6 player game. It takes about an hour, and that is correct. It does say on the box an hour, and that is spot on, even with teaching and with new people. So as an example, let's just choose lavender. Let's use purple as a colour. And we've got obviously 2 other colours in the game, say in a 3-player game. So in a 3-player game, you vary, or any number, the number of ships that you use in the game. So I talked to you about some of these ships that come into play. Basically, you're bidding to see if you want the ship. If you want it, you are going to sail it to a port. So you could take it over here, in which case you're going to get 2 of these. So that means this goes up 2 spaces. But if you went over to the pottery track, that would go up 2 spaces over there instead. Now, this 7 is important because there's lots of different ways of getting points. So in this instance, you would stick the ship here and you stick your flag on it. So that goes there, and basically it's showing you that it's your colour that's the top. Now in a 3-player game, you take out 17 cards, so there are 29 cards. You can buy a ship on each person's turn, but you don't have to. It's a 3-round game, let's say a 3-turn game as well. So I've just bought that one, so that was my first turn. I'll come on to the flags in a second. Now the next person has this. That's also a 7, so it's quite good. And let's say, what colours do we have out here? We have yellow will work. So this person says, well, I want this, and I also want to go over here too. So because it's got a +1, they get to go in front. Now, you must place a flag if you want to basically take the ship. And you have 3 things. You have a +1, a skull and crossbones, and you have a goods symbol. So in this instance, they really want this. And they go up here. I'll tell you why that's good in a second. And then the next card comes out because, let's say, green doesn't want it. Let's play with red just because I can see the symbols ready. Now this person now it's red's turn. In this instance, red does want it because in this instance I can explain what this symbol means. So they just take it. Now the reason we're playing a skull and crossbones means you immediately get it. You're basically pirating it. The addition of the other 2 things is basically, I'd like it, but I might not get it if someone plays skull and crossbones. So if they've still got some left, it depends if you really want that. Now in this case, it only has obviously carpets or rugs or fabric. So that goes here. And they put that on there. And because it's got this symbol, basically they get one of these promotion tiles. So 3 are visible, and now they can choose one of them. At the end of the game, unlike these points which I'll come on to, basically you're going to get 30 points if you have the most in art, or the most in basically, like, say, sciences, or in architecture. So if you have the most, you get, like I said, those points. If you have second most, you get 20. Third most, you get 10. If you happen to be tied, then if you're higher up this track, then you also would get that 30. So there's no ties specifically. Now I'll explain how this works. So this goes round until, in this case, 9 ships have been used. So some ships you might pass on, which is fine, but you're hoping there's a better ship coming up. So one thing you look at is this: who's higher up the track. So yellow is highest up, so they will get 15 victory points. So basically they get 15 money, and then purple gets 10. If somebody goes here, they'd get 5. So 15, 10, 5, etc. down in this green column as well. Of green represents Rome. Then you also get points based on where you're up on the track. So the higher up you are, if you're the highest up, you'd get 15. Second most, you'd get, so yellow only has 1, so they'd get 10 points. And of course green, or we're playing with red, aren't we? They'd get 5 points, or if they weren't on it, they wouldn't get anything. Now throughout the game, you might be eventually getting up onto this. This means if you're ever up there, in addition to whatever you're scoring, you're going to get 5 points every round. So there's only 3 rounds, 10 and 15. So you could be getting an extra 5, an extra 10, or an extra 15. So yeah, an opportunity maybe to get quite a high score. Now, if somebody's here and then somebody happens to get, I don't know, say 4 or whatever it is, and they tie, they always go to the right, which means they're still only going to get second place because they weren't the first to get there the quickest. That pretty much is the game. So you're scoring based on the track, you're scoring based on your position here, you're scoring if you get anything bonus, and also you score obviously on this track too. And finally, the promotion tiles, which are double the points, but I think there's only about 13 cards that have this in there. And of course, 17 are removed, saying a 3-player game. So that kind of covers off what the game's about. In terms of smoothness of play, it's quick because literally, at least in 3-player, I'd say with more players, I would say there's a slight more of a delay because, well, for a start, in 4 players, some of these tracks aren't going to get people any points. So you're going to be looking over into, how you wish to be, who's in the lead, who do you want to screw over, who can you stop, or they can then screw over back. One final thing actually is I've talked to you about 2 of the flags. The third one is this one, which is the goods flag. Now, if you happen to go to any port, so this would be Rome, Venice, or Naples, wherever you've sent that ship, you'll get a bonus thing, basically, carpets, some gold, or a jug. So that could be useful if you're trying to boost yourself up somewhere. There's an alternate way that we played it yesterday, or actually Tuesday, today's Thursday, and that was about wherever you sail, you actually get everything on there. Now, we did get close to maxing out most of our things, and the scores are 280, 325, and 335. So relatively close. So if you want a kind of a closer game that isn't too bitey, shall we say, then I think that's quite a nice variant to play. By all means, you can study these cards. Those ship values go up from 1 to 8. So seeing 3 7s is obviously quite unusual. I wouldn't have expected such a distribution to be there. With 29 cards and there being 8 different sail speeds is basically how it represents it, because you're the fastest and quickest to get into ports to trade. I haven't looked into the distribution, but that is something that I may well put in the comments if you wish to know. The colours are quite well distributed, so you've got 24 pieces. That obviously represents each track, and also you've got obviously 3 flags for each thing. Hasn't been a problem trying to lose a piece. Yes, things can drop down, but it's been quite effective. Size of the box wise, yeah, it doesn't need too much space. Having said that, you do have a board. Do you need a board? Not necessarily, but you do need some way of making sure you've got that kind of marker going on. So that's the factor there. In this instance, there's actually only one tray that will fit a certain type of packaging. Yeah, it's like I say, it's quite a nice, pretty board. Medici's kind of similar in the sense, but it's round and you're just trying to work inwards. Medici came out earlier, and actually there's a game called Medici or Medici versus Strozzi, which came out before Strozzi came out. So there's something to look into there. It's a 2-player game. I haven't played it yet. I haven't actually seen it anywhere. It just happened to be doing some research and finding that there is another game out that exists. Yeah, obviously it doesn't have to be Italy. There could well be another theme, but obviously it's nice they add a bit of history to it. But according to some of the literature in the game book, it does say that there is a Bardi game, the third in the Medici Strozzi Bardi series. Like I said, as far as I'm aware, on Board Game Geek, it's only the game Medici versus Strozzi that exists. But no, I think I'm gonna keep playing it quite a few more times because it seems to be quite a fun game. And like I said, I'm trying to fill in some time just so you're aware of how long it takes to pack away, which isn't too long specifically. Everything generally fits in quite okay in the box. Obviously, there's still quite a lot of space. But yeah, if ever you want a bit of art on your thing, then obviously that's available too. It's easy to carry around. I carried it easily on my bike again, and yeah, it's not too bad in that regard either. So it seems to be holding up quite well. Obviously, some slight marks on it, but it seems to be quite effective. So that is Strozzi. So please enjoy.